is ridiculous. So I took it in my own hands and I went to the doctor. I asked him to make an assessment of my son. And then we got maybe an actual psychoeducational assessment done. But that took steps. Um, but the point is, I had to do it on my own. Nobody told me.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long story short. Those were the
Hmm.
steps.
Okay. That is interesting. Interesting because you started off talking about how he was, in the earlier center, he was generally the first one to start running around, not being focused on what's the content is at the earlier center. And then you noticed
It's like a song. It's a rainbow songs
a
class.
rainbow songs class. And then when you went to birthday parties, you also noticed that he just wanted to play, just like active, 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 didn't eat, is what you were saying. So I'm kind of repeating
Yeah.
what you've said already, because I think that our live didn't start right away for some reason.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm kind of repeating some things, and just so the viewers can get
yeah.
caught up. And so we're interviewing Deborah, and Deborah is she's a mom first, but she's also a public health nurse, and her expertise. She started off working with young children, and
And
knowing what the milestones and early years is all about. So she was very cognizant and paying attention to her children's growth, right? So just to recap a little bit for the people that missed that. So interestingly, you did mention that your son has always been in active programs, swimming and recreation programs, because you were brought up that way. And most parents that don't involve their kids in active activities, myself as a child needs practitioner, I would recommend those things to parents that have children with ADHD, because they're rambunctious, they're active, they need to constantly be moving. I would say, have you tried a recreation center? Have you tried a sport outside of school? And you've already started off on the right track. So you're already 10 steps ahead because you're a nurse, one.
yeah.
You're already questioning the education system. Um, by, you notice his grades, and you're wondering, why is this okay for this teacher to give my son this C when I know he can excel, he can do better, and he's doing better. Um, what other things did you do as a mom to advocate for your son, like in terms of the IEP, the IEP process? Like, what did you do
So
with
that
that?
was a process in itself. Thank you for asking.
Hmm.
During that time, it was very stressful for me. Um, because, like I said, I made it through the system. I've never had to seek any extra support. I did well in school, got A's in school, went to university, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
navigating the system was like, oh, wondering what are those kids who used to go in those classrooms. Well, that's where my son would go. So to
Right.
make a long story short, after the incident at the school with the principal, I
Mhm.
took the initiative to go to my doctor and get him officially tested because it
Mhm.
was very mysterious to me what was going on. My family doctor sent me to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician gave me a list of recommendations for a psychoeducation assessment, and those were done by psychologists. So when you get your child tested, they have to get a psychoeducational assessment, whether they're gifted, whether they have ADHD, whether they have a learning disability, they have to
Mhm.
get this done.
Right.
So fortunately, my husband and I, it cost about $4,000 or $5,000 to do.
Mhm.
Fortunately, my husband and I are in a position where our benefits allowed us to use the funds allocated for psychology for this test. So
Mhm.
we got it done. We made the appointment. We got it done within a month. Versus if you do it at the school, you might have to be on the waiting list for 6 months.
Right.
Once I got the results of that assessment, mind you, I had no idea what the results were going to be. I knew he was very active, but like in our community, in our culture, we have active boys. We
Right.
accept them for who they are. We get
Yes.
them to do extra chores, right? He was
Mm-hmm.
fine at home because I think, as you said, I always had him in activities. I always had him busy. He had his routine. He was fine.
Yeah.
But what the results of that test also showed, and it's about 30% of kids with ADHD, they tend to have a learning disability. So that
Right.
so the result was he had combined type ADHD. So there's two types,
Mm-hmm.
hyperactivity and inattentive. He had both, and a learning disability. And I literally brought this paper to this principal, who I unfortunately have a detest for up until this day because of the way they treated my son, and I threw
Yeah.
it on her desk. And the psychologist said, guided me through it.
Mm-hmm.
Said to me, "You're going to take this piece of paper.
Yeah.
You're going to get the help for your son." She
Yeah.
said to me, "You're going to firstly bring him to school, ask for a meeting, and then
Mm-hmm.
after that meeting, they're going to have a larger meeting. He's going to get, we have to have an IEP. They're going to make an educational plan. They're gonna have to supply him with computers, and you're gonna use the system for what you pay your taxes."
Right. Absolutely.
So that's what she told me. She also said it wouldn't hurt to help give him a little bit more support with the reading because he was behind in reading.
Yeah.
She geared whatever she forwarded to me to a private company or private tutoring company to help with his reading, geared towards
Right.
my husband and my income. So basically, with that piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
people could not fool around with my son anymore. And you know what she said? She looked at it and she was reading through it. And she's like, "Oh, wow, this psychologist really knows your son." I bit my teeth. I wanted to, anyways. I don't want to tell you what I wanted to. I wanted to, a
Yes.
piece of my mind. But really and truly, that opened my eyes into the system and what it is,
Right.
and that you have to work the system.
So, Deborah, I know
Yeah,
you talked about the school.
yeah,
I know, did he start off in the public school system and then you
yes,
switched over? Okay.
yes.
So, can you talk a little bit about
Oh,
that and how that made a difference in your child's life, moving
okay.
him from the public system into the private
Nervous
sector,
system?
private
Okay.
system?
So as I said before, the psychologist told me to utilize the schools, meaning the public schools where I pay my taxes.
Yeah.
So at the school, when this happened, they put him on a reading program. They put him aside with a teacher's aide, and they
Mm-hmm.
also found a program for him within the school system, um, that had a class for reading and also for children who needed a little bit more support, with learning disabilities. So he had to change schools. He
Oh,
was devastated. So because in the public system, this program, the specific program for children, who need more one-on-one support or face-to-face support versus computer, wasn't available at his local school, he went to I guess a regional school, which was literally 20, 30 minutes away from his school. So
mm-hmm.
that sort of changed our lives,
Yeah.
in that aspect. So we went to that school, was in that school for about 2 years. Um, and because COVID happened, they extended him another year in that program. And
Okay.
after the second year, Quentin, my son was like, "Mom, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be in this class anymore. I don't need to be in this class.
Mm-hmm.
He was the only kid in this class that was at his math level. I don't want to be in this class." And
Yeah.
so, sometimes you have to listen to your kids.
Right.
And so, um, I listened to him. I demanded a meeting, and they moved him out of the class and put him into the regular class. But
Yeah.
what's so funny is when I put him in this regular class, his teacher, he had a wonderful teacher who looked like me, who had
Mm-hmm.
hair like me, and
Mm-hmm.
he sometimes would call the teacher mommy. And this was the first time he'd ever had a teacher that
Oh,
looked like me.
yes.
Conversation with the teacher, never met her face to face because of COVID, but she said to me, all Black boys need to go to private school.
Hmm.
All Black boys need to go to
Yes. I
private school.
remember having that conversation with
Yes.
you. Yeah.
And I was like, and this teacher herself had a young Black boy, and She goes, yes, your son, you know, he needs a little bit more support with his reading and writing, but all about black wasn't it. So I started to do my research.
Hmm.
And not knowing how much it would cost, I looked everywhere, everywhere.
Yeah.
And I came across a school, North York area, very close to me. And I was like, I saw that, I said, you know what, I'm just going to try.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried. I saw that they had sometimes bursaries, sometimes scholarships, depending on your child.
Okay.
I
Okay.
know my child, he's overall a good student. You know, no
Yeah.
child is perfect. He's athletic.
Mm-hmm.
He liked different sports. He liked skiing. He likes doing a whole bunch of things. So I think he would have made a good candidate anywhere.
Right.
So I applied to one school he didn't get into, which is fine.
Yeah.
But this school, everything happens for a reason, I think. This
Mm-hmm.
school that he did get into was smaller,
Yes.
and they were so welcoming of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that kids at private schools, a lot of them have challenges
Yes.
neurodivergency, such as ADHD or learning disability, and
Yes.
they have the supports in place.
Yes.
What I learned from that is if you have money, your kids will do well. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
because they
And
have the supports in place. So from then, that's where he
Mhm.
started. He started that in grade 7, and he's been in private system ever since, and he's thriving.
Yes. Excellent. That's great news. Great news. Well, I'm going to back it up a little bit
Yeah.
and talk about what a successful morning what a successful morning routine looks like in your house, and what are the non-negotiables. I already see you like what
Okay,
is a
so I have to go
successful
back to
morning?
when he was little.
Yeah.
So when you have any child, doesn't have to be ADHD or not.
Yeah.
I want to say when he's 7 or 8, you have to have routine and structure, and you have to know your child, right?
Yeah.
So for me, that would be getting up in the morning. That would be preparing the night before,
Mm-hmm.
making sure his clothes are out, making sure the lunch is packed or almost packed, and prepare for the next day.
Right.
Um, so we'd get up at a certain time. I used to use a timer actually when he was
Ah,
very young.
great. I love that because that's what we try to
Yes. No, no,
encourage teachers to use at
yeah,
school.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to use a timer, and sometimes
Yeah.
it worked and sometimes it wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there'd be yelling in the house. But
Yeah.
I think the key to a successful morning as a parent is staying calm
Yeah.
and knowing that, you know, how you react will also affect the way your child reacts.
Right.
Okay. So we used to have another thing. We used to use the I don't know what it was called, green zones of regulation.
Zones of regulation. Yes.
So if my son was giving me problems in the morning, I would say, "Can you please get into the green zone?" Depending
Mm,
on if it was in the red zone or the yellow zone.
right.
But a successful morning for me, I think, and it took me a while to learn this, was if I remained calm,
Mm-hmm.
if I kept my voice low, if I
Yeah.
spoke to him, if I didn't get stressed out, it was a successful morning. Because
Mm-hmm.
believe you, sometimes I'd drop the kids off to school or daycare and I'd be driving and my head would be exploding.
Yes.
And I was lucky in that the job that I had, if I was late, I just make up the time.
Okay.
Versus if I was a nurse on the floor and I
Mm-hmm.
got there late, it's not a good thing. So those things, I think everything happens for a
For
reason.
a reason. Yeah.
So those things worked out for me. So a successful morning is me keeping my cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And that's very helpful because kids with ADHD, believe it or not, I mean, I'm talking to the viewers, you already know because you live it every day.
Yeah.
They're very, very loving and very sensitive children.
Oh
They
yeah.
pick up on everything. So if you're upset, they're going to feed off of that. If you're sad, they're going to be emotional with you, right? So it's important to be able to self-regulate yourself so they
Yeah.
can regulate themselves, right? Okay, well, thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Um, So we often talk about challenges with ADHD, but what is there is there a superpower or uniqueness about your son that you would say sets him apart from other children? A uniqueness or a
You
superpower?
know what? He's very like, I would say, every ADHD is different in terms of what are their characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say he doesn't read social cues, because he does, but he he looks at the best out of everybody, and he's very positive.
Mm,
He's very positive in the way he thinks, in the way he does things. He's not negative towards people, and that's what I notice about him.
mm-hmm.
Say, um, his dad and we have a little argument. He hears us talking. He'll, though he's a teenager now, he sits down and he looks at the situation, and he'll be very positive about things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say he's very good at problem solving.
Okay.
For him as an ADHDer, he is, they say some ADHD kids get mad and angry. That's not him.
Mm,
He's very positive.
yes.
He listens. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, not listens to me, but he listens to
He
having
listens
a
to,
conversation.
yes.
He'll listen. He'll listen, he'll think about it, and then
Mm-hmm.
come out with a positive answer. That's for me, that's him. And
Yeah.
even though you think, his reading wasn't the strongest, he's very articulate as well.
Okay.
Very, very, very articulate. And I think that's his gift. He's a
Nice.
likable person, he's positive, and that's why he has lots of friends.
Yeah. That's good that you shared that because oftentimes kids with ADHD, they're like, oh, he has ADHD. It's always, not always, more times than not, it's comes along with a negative connotation that this child has ADHD and they're rambunctious and they're a problem. And it's nice that you can share from your perspective as being a mom of, I've never heard that word ADHDer, but I like it, an ADHDer. You are showing a different perspective on what someone living with someone with ADHD is like, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're having a positive experience in that aspect.
Especially as he gets older. So when he
Mm-hmm.
was younger, I wouldn't say, that much, but
No, he's reflective, right?
yeah,
He's
yeah,
reflective. He's able
definitely.
to, and I know it might be a personal question, but also a personal choice. Um, Medication,
Oh,
does that help? Is that something that has been a part of who he is and helping him to be more regulated in his daily routines?
so I'll tell you my story about medication and the decision to or not
Mhm.
to use. Again, being of the Caribbean background, I'm very open and honest because I am not ashamed of it. Spoke to
Yeah.
my parents about it. This is what he was diagnosed with, and they're like, "Are you crazy? Don't put him on medication." Even my husband was born in the Caribbean, same thing. But my husband, we went to one of his friends' Christmas parties who lives up north,
Yeah.
and his this is his good friend he grew up with, and he started to tell him about his son, and his son had ADHD, but didn't quite make friends and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when his friend said to him what a difference it made in his child's life,
Mm.
like for my husband, he said he'd agreed. Me, I was on the fence, but I was like, whatever. And we haven't looked back since.
Nice.
I think, that is a personal decision, but I think somebody put it in the words to me like, if your son broke his leg, wouldn't you give him a cane to walk, or wouldn't you put him in a wheelchair? You're just assisting him.
Yes.
So for us, like that was uh, an interesting experience, me being a nurse, because I'm very knowledgeable when they talk about side effects and the long
Yes. Yes.
term effects and all that stuff. So we chose based on our son's personality. We chose
Mm.
like, his schedule and what would work for us, because there's all different types of medication.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the process of like teetering up or teetering down and looking for symptoms, absent symptoms or positive symptoms, negative symptoms, that was a bit stressful.
Hmm. That's what I was going to ask as well,
Yeah.
because I know that I work with many students that when parents do make a choice to, when they finally make a choice to medicate, sometimes that can be the most stressful time when you're trying to figure out which medication, which dosage is going to work best for that
Yeah.
child. And sometimes the child will present as very aggressive or very lethargic on the other end of the pendulum, right? They're very tired.
Oh, he was very quiet. He
Yeah.
was like not himself.
And
He'd sit
that's
there and
scary.
he'd like on the couch and like, oh, it's quiet in here.
Zombie like.
Yeah. Not so much like a zombie, but it was like you
Quiet.
knew that something was wrong with him.
Hmm.
So we teetered up and teetered down, and finally found something that worked. The thing about my son, and I noticed the medication with him, if he plays activities, I'm convinced it just burns even quicker.
Yeah.
He'll take it, the medication we chose, it goes in and out at the end of the day. But when he
Hmm.
was younger, you knew when it would stop working. You knew.
Interesting.
And again, never bothered me because he's my son and we're used to it. But he would talk, or he'd get
Mm.
excited, and that's it. Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or obviously, one of the major side effects is they eat a lot. They eat.
Okay.
We get really, really, really hungry.
Okay.
Yeah. And in the beginning, and I can say this because he's been on it for years. In the beginning, when you start giving them medication, they don't really eat that much, right? That's why they say
Yes.
give them breakfast.
Yes.
But I don't know. His body's so used to it now that he
Yeah.
does eat
Okay.
in the daytime, not just in the morning or when it wears off. But even that part, seeing, and he was never chubby. He was always, I mean, he was never chubby. He was thick. But when he
Hmm.
started medication, he started to slim down.
Slim down.
But he's like he plays basketball and all these
That's
other sports, so it was bound to happen anyway. But
right.
again, that was short term. He eats now. He eats more than I can afford. Um, so no issues there.
Yeah.
But that decision definitely, it took us maybe 2 months to come to that decision,
Yeah.
but we have never looked back. My daughter, when she was younger, she would say, "Mom, did he take his medication?" She would remember. This little one would like remind me sometimes in the morning. So
That's nice.
yeah, I'm at the point now where I know that he's almost becoming an adult and he has to make that decision for himself. I
Hmm.
can always remind him, "Did you take your medication?"
Yeah.
I have to stop doing that
So
because
does he, if he doesn't take his medication, does he recognize the difference in his daily demeanor, like his routine? Does he notice for himself that
no,
things are different?
the only thing he notices is that he's hungry.
Ah.
And the only reason he just notices, like sometimes he'll have a small lunch or something like that, but
Mm-hmm.
he'll just be constantly hungry. That's when he remembers. But what happens is, and I've read lots of research about ADHD, as they get older,
Mm-hmm.
those super active hyper symptoms, they sort of, I don't want to say plateau,
That's
but
what, yeah.
the children are aware of how to cope. And
Right.
he's at 16 now, right?
Right.
Not that he's totally aware, but he's cognitively aware. He can't run around the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Things
So
like that.
socially, yeah.
Yeah.
Socially, yeah.
So
Right. Makes
he's
sense.
aware.
Mm-hmm.
So as they get older, they know what their triggers are, or they know how to self-regulate better. I
Regulate.
think that's the better. They know how to do that better. So
Okay.
when he was little and he forgot his medication, or I forgot to give it to him, I knew I would get a call from school.
Mm.
Now that's not the case. Now it's just like he'd just be really hungry. He'll call me, "Mom, can I have some more money? I'm hungry for
Okay.
lunch." That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's good. And again, to reiterate, like your son is unique, and like you said, ADHDers are different. So it's
Yeah.
almost like a spectrum. It's almost like ASD. There's a spectrum, and it's not just like, okay, this child has ADHD and they're all going to be like that. No,
Yep.
definitely not. And I think a lot has to do with upbringing and value systems as well, right?
That's a good
So
point. Yeah.
yeah. So your value system and your expectations for him are maybe different from another child and their household. You know?
Yeah, to say that again, a lot of
Mm.
people used to say, oh, ADHDers don't have friends. That's because of they miss social cues and all that stuff, and people think they're awkward. That was never the case with my son. So that's why I never clued in. He would go to the park and make friends like that.
Yeah, I would say the opposite though. ADHD
Yeah.
kids with ADHD, they often have more friends because
Oh
they're
yeah. Okay.
so social. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess. I don't know.
So maybe.
Um,
Yeah.
so you're seeing the number on the screen. You're watching Minds in Motion. Thank you so much for watching on those platforms. You can text the number 647-495-3224 if you want to text in your question or your comment. Thank you for those of you who are watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. Please go ahead. Don't be shy. Send your comments and questions, and we will answer them as they come in. All right. What about balancing family and sibling life? Like, how do you ensure that the rest of the family, so his sister has her needs met as well, because he's not an only child. How do you ensure that his sister's needs are also met?
So I have to be very, very honest. For a very, very, very long time, because of his ADHD, he ran the house.
Mm-hmm.
The focus was all on him.
Yeah.
What is he doing today? What am I going to sign him up for next semester? What's he eating for breakfast?
Mm-hmm.
Come downstairs, do this, do that. For a long time, that unfortunately, I have to say that, and this is something that I know a lot of people with children like my son, their focus is just on this kid, takes over their lives.
Yeah.
Um, Even for me, for a long time, like I had my graduate degree since he was 1 year old. I did not apply um, that graduate degree into other jobs or any other focuses of mine because it's
Mm-hmm.
all on him.
Yeah.
So my job was Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and my husband's was all over the place.
Yeah.
So there was no balance. And like I said, my little daughter, again, I think felt she was a bit neglected.
Mm.
But to me, in the time, she was not, because she was doing well in school. She didn't cause any problems in school. She was an angel.
Yeah.
She went to bed. She ate. She did everything. She
Yeah.
wasn't. She was not. She didn't have ADHD in my mind, so she was okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I noticed as she got older, she would say like, "Oh, you always focus on my brother. What about me?
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah." But
Yeah.
that's not until she got older.
Mm-hmm.
So she talks about, like, if she has friends who have friends who have friends who have, or people at school who have ADHD, she can identify them, and friends who have siblings, she knows.
Mm.
It's very interesting. She was very quiet. She would be like my tag along to swimming. Actually, I tried to put them swimming lessons together, but she'd
Yeah.
be tag along to basketball, to soccer, whatever. She was just in the background, and I hate to say
Right.
it. Um,
Yeah.
but also, yeah, obviously, even it can cause conflicts in your relationship as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I can say that, being Caribbean heritage, but being born here and being a healthcare professional that was trained in Canada, and also knowing that I know how to analyze the literature and all that stuff.
Yeah.
My partner was not.
Yeah.
I would talk to him about things.
And you wouldn't understand.
He
Yeah.
wouldn't understand. He wouldn't listen. Oh, nobody could tell me how to raise my
Yeah.
child, like that. But I think eventually he came around. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of conflict with that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important, viewers, to understand. Like sometimes you're one of the parents are there, they understand, they're already there, but the other person just needs some time to catch up. And so don't give up, just keep trying. And it's for the betterment of your family, betterment of your child, right? To just keep trying, to make help the other person to understand what it is that's happening with your child, right? Because sometimes parents just tend to just blow it off and say, you know what, they're just boys or they're just kids. They act like this. And it's not just that sometimes. Sometimes it's a little more, as we discovered um, through testing, that ADHD is a real thing, right? So we talked about school already. And we talked about social cues and medication. Um, so self-care. Is it easy to pour everything into your child? So how do you check in with yourself to prevent caregiver burnout or parent burnout? How
So
do you check in with yourself?
this is a great question because all of these things uh, are coming full circle for me.
Mm-hmm.
At the time when he was, newly diagnosed, 7, 8 years old, um, I noticed I didn't have time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, thankfully to my job, thankfully to his schedule, signed up with the Good Life,
Yeah.
bought a child pass for them. Like at the time, we could have child passes there,
Mm-hmm.
and so no matter what, 3 times a week I would have went to the gym. So whether that's at my lunchtime
Mm-hmm.
or in the evening, I'd rush home if my husband wasn't home or if he was home, feed them, and then go to a gym class. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, that self-care piece, I used to do it, but then I stopped. But when he was very young and it was very stressful, I did that for
Yeah.
about 5 years. 5 years,
Okay.
even on Saturdays and Sundays. And sometimes my husband would join us. But one of
Okay.
the things that stuck out in my mind is, and this could be for any parent, but I would make them dinner or whatever, and then I'd sit down to eat. And they would be in my face, or I don't know, causing problems. I don't know if it was
Mm-hmm.
they, but I said to the kids, you need to leave me alone while I eat. You've already eaten. And I said it to them like this: if I don't take care of myself, how can I take care of you? And from
Yes.
that day on, when they saw me sitting and eat it, they didn't come in my face, they didn't bother me.
Hmm.
So
At
that
least they're
piece,
understanding enough to understand that piece, what you meant, you know.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that piece, and sometimes, unfortunately, there is a negative part of self care because my day was so busy to get them ready for bed. Although even him, when he was little, he didn't want to go to bed. So that was another thing. But finally, when he was in bed, I'd probably go on the couch, sit and watch TV till maybe 12 o'clock. That wasn't a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
But that was my self care. I actually had time to sit
For yourself.
and watch TV when I probably should have been sleeping, but that was part of my self care.
Yeah, because it was your quiet time. You were by
Yeah,
yourself. You didn't have the
yeah,
kids in your face. You didn't have to run around.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that piece. Uh, I'm very fortunate that like I have a supportive partner.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Cooking is not my forte, so I often didn't worry about that. But
Mm-hmm.
everything else I did. I think that made a difference or that even makes a difference till this day. Having a supportive partner with the kids, or because they're single parents with kids with ADHD, uh, that must be even stressful if you don't have somebody to talk to
Yeah.
or somebody to, gauge situation on, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
somebody to listen to you, talk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I think having that support is important.
Mm-hmm. I agree
That's
with you.
a good part of the self care, having that support.
Yeah. I often do ask parents that are like when I'm working with families and they are single parents, do you have a support network? And when I hear the word no, I feel so sad for them because I'm like, I don't know. All I can do is offer resources and support from the school perspective. Or like if I'm in my private practice, I can offer supports. But then having a partner, like you said, or family to lean on is most important, right?
Definitely. As you were talking and you said that, so the same psychologist who did my son's psychoeducational assessment, she also gave us referrals to other places.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a referral to a place called Integra. Um, and I think it was partially funded by the government. They
Mm-hmm.
had counseling, they had groups for children, they had education sessions for children, they had different referrals. So even that, if you're a single parent and you don't have somebody per se, going to a place like that would that was a phenomenal place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So sometimes I just wrote down the word integral because I remember hearing about that program many, many years ago, and just I wrote it down to offer that resource again to families. It's been a while
And they
since.
may have changed their name by now, but I
Yeah.
think it's under the Sick Kids for Community Health.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it's underneath. But regardless, those programs are OHIP funded and are subsidized. And if they're not subsidized, they're geared towards your income.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that because last week I did a whole episode on sharing resources with families, with my viewers, and that is something that I'm going to add to my list, Integra. Right. So, as Deborah, as
Excuse me,
yes,
sorry.
it's okay. As you were saying that, sometimes we may not have the support network, but reaching out to these resources and supports that are out there, they can help you. There's a reason why they're there.
They,
And you said some of them are government funded. A lot of them are government funded, and we don't have to worry about spending our own money because sometimes I find that parents they don't try to access supports or resources because they think that they have to pay for it. But if you don't go and investigate, you're not going to know if it's government funded or not, right?
yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah. And another thing, so since we're talking about that, um, getting your child registered with the government so you would get the disability
Mhm.
tax, child tax credit, is that something that you knew about right away that you can get this child tax credit?
So I did know about it.
Hmm.
The thing is, there's severities of ADHD and or neurodivergent children that can get that
Ah, okay.
disability. So again, the person who did the psychoeducational assessment or a doctor has to sign off on that paperwork.
Hmm.
And there's certain criteria for your child. And it has to affect their life
Mm,
significantly. So yes, it affects my son's life, but not to that extent.
right.
So I knew about it. There are people who even call you and ask. There are people who advertise, will get it for you. I think it's the wording in the application. But for
Mm,
me, I didn't qualify. I couldn't get my
okay.
doctor or the psychologist to sign the paperwork.
Okay. Okay. All right. I know a few cases of students that would definitely qualify or clients that I have that will qualify. And that makes sense. So if they're more on the milder end or the lower end, they may not qualify, but it's worth investigating.
Definitely.
It's worth investigating. Um,
And it takes years, I hear, years
mhm.
to once you file the paperwork for it to get approved. But I try. I the the psychologist said no. He's not. It's not. He doesn't fit my.
Yeah, yeah. And you saying that it takes years, that's important to let the viewing audience know that it's better to start early than to start later. Like once you find out that your child is being diagnosed or is diagnosed with ADHD, that you need to start investigating all of the support systems and networks that you can benefit from. As your psychologist said, milk them or take the government or whatever institution it is for what they can offer you. Whatever they can offer you, take it, right?
Once you pay your
And
taxes. Yeah.
yeah, and it goes back
Exactly.
to a conversation that we had, a discussion I had. I think it was maybe yeah, we were talking about ADHD, and it was don't be afraid of the diagnosis. You want your child to be
Oh
diagnosed
yeah.
in order to one, have that report so that the school knows that they can't mess around with your child and that they have to put some provisions in. They have to create an IEP where there's accommodations or modifications to the work if they have a learning disability. These things are important for you as a parent to advocate for your child, right? And have the supports that are necessary in place. So ADHD is not, it's kind of, they recognize it as a disability, but not really as a disorder.
Yeah, you're right. Because so things like my son's computer and them having a big meeting, those, is it PR?
SSTs?
I forgot what they're called, but because they doesn't have them anymore, they don't have them in private schools.
Yeah.
They have to do it. It's the law.
Yes.
Especially if a learning disability, they have to do it or they can get sued. They can get in trouble, the school boards. They have to help him because, right. So more so the learning disability, they can't mess around with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Get his computer. He has to have the meetings. They have to have an IEP in place. They have to notify you. There's policies, procedures, even within the schools. There's policy procedures for those departments. Yeah, for sure. And that's what she was saying. Take the school board for what it is, and yeah, because they won't mess around with that at all.
Just to highlight for viewers that don't know what an IEP is. An IEP is an individual education plan. It's very specific for your child, and your child's needs, okay? And your child doesn't have to be diagnosed with anything to actually have an IEP. They can just be struggling in a particular area, and then the teacher can create an IEP that is going to help to modify or accommodate the work that your child is doing in school. So investigate those things. If you see that your child is struggling in an area, you can definitely find out from the school if they can create an IEP, which will help the child to get some tools that will benefit them to be a better learner, right?
Another thing is, though, you have to be on top of them to see if they actually enforce it. Because
yes,
I definitely, when he was in the public system, I would call, and unfortunately, sometimes it wouldn't be in place, or sometimes, his pride would get the best of him, and he wouldn't go for extra support. But they're supposed to be going to get him. But unfortunately, in the system I have him now, they always send me updates. We always they always support him, and I found that works for him, and I'm very proud that we ended up in the private system because it's what's best for my son.
Yeah. So you have to be a good advocate for your child. Yeah. Speaking about advocating, how have you handled judgmental moments from people who might mistake your child's symptoms for poor parenting? Has that ever happened to you? If you can think back.
I think it more so comes from family.
The judgment.
Because it's your kid doesn't listen. Even, sometimes he's still impulsive. He's so rude. You let him get away with things. But in the back of my mind, there's bigger fish in the sea, or there's more important things in his life that I should focus on.
Yeah.
So certain things like, yelling, screaming, or little things, I let go. And my parents or my siblings would see that. Even my partner's siblings, they'd see it and they'd say something, and I would just ignore them because I don't care what anybody says. First of all, it's not their child.
Right.
But secondly, I know my child, and I don't have, to you, it's a problem, but it's not to me. So I would say that. I think as my son got older, believe it or not, his friends all have ADHD.
Birds of a feather.
We're back together. I swear, one of his best friends since grade 7, he told me he has it. And all
Yeah.
the boys on his basketball team, two of them, they have it.
A lot of boys who play basketball have, yep, it's true.
So the parents are like, although my husband and I don't necessarily disclose, those parents, well, my husband talks more to the parents than I do. They'll tell my husband,
Yeah.
right? But the boys know, because the boys, they take advantage of the services that they have at the school, so they'll have extra time for writing or whatever. They
Yeah.
know about it amongst each other. Um, but in terms of the parents and stuff, I don't say much,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Some
honestly,
things you want to keep to yourself.
and I think as he gets older, I would want him to disclose
That's
to
right.
people instead of me talking to him, talking and saying, "Oh, my son has ADHD." Like tonight, I said I'll be talking on a show tonight, and I'll be talking about my son. So in case he hears me in the house, but
Yes. Oh, you told him.
yeah,
And what did he say? What did
he
he
just
say?
had his eyes open like this, but he's still, his door's very close to here.
Yes.
He didn't come
Yeah.
because again, his dad drove him to basketball. See,
Yeah.
he's still busy up to this day.
Yeah.
So,
That's great. Yeah.
yeah.
And it's good sometimes, now that he's older, he can speak to the younger students about his experience as an ADHDer, what things that he went through. And sometimes it's good to share with people, like within the school, I think, because he might notice other younger kids behaving in a certain way or not being treated fairly. And he might say to them, I was like that once. And he can advocate or be like a mentor for them, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I still think, yeah, those kids that have high energy, he probably will still fit in right with them. He'll
Mm-hmm.
play right with them. So yeah. Anyways, yeah.
Well, we're already talking about the fact that he's a teenager, but what are your biggest hopes for him transitioning into adulthood? I know we said that we want him to advocate for himself, but what are your biggest hopes for him now transitioning into adulthood?
He just has to do things. And I would call myself an umbrella mom or a helicopter mom. Yes, that's what I am. And my husband tells me I need to let go. But I need him to function as an adult on his own.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hope that all parents have. And that's just the hope the normal hope I have for him to function as an adult and live, his life. My husband would say to get a job. He wants him to get a job.
Yeah.
But I think for my son, everything comes a little bit slower, like learning to clean his room, do the dishes, those sorts of stuff. He's doing it. It's just slower. And it could be because he's a boy. It could be because he has ADHD. But I just want him to grow into a thriving adult.
Right.
And that's it. Happy. That's it, really. And he's well on his way. So
yeah, good to know.
Yes.
Okay. I see there are some viewers, and I'm thanking you for tuning in and listening and staying for the journey with us, talking to Deborah about her experience being a mom, raising an ADHD boy, a boy with ADHD. And her experience, to my surprise, is quite different from the experiences that I experience on a professional level with the students that I work with and the families that I work with. And this is quite refreshing, actually, Deborah, to hear the success stories that you've had. And I think it's because you are a professional in the profession working with children. You've had that experience and the theological knowledge of how to work with children. And that can help. That can really help. And so no one actually has a handbook as to how to become a parent or what it is to become a parent. But there's research out there. There are parenting groups. And you yourself, you said you took him to an early years center when he was younger. So these things we can't take for granted, that we can, get up and know what to do. We're not going to know what to do all the time. And even if we're going through it, we're still not going to know what to do.
You're right.
So turning to the professionals, but not just turning to the professionals, utilizing the tools that are there for you. Just to reiterate that there are tools there for you. The government will pay for some of those things, and access them at your leisure, right? You're never alone. Never ever think that you're alone, because there are people out there to support you. You just have to open your mouth and share. Don't keep it to yourself. As Caribbean people, we tend to want to keep things to ourselves and sometimes blame ourselves for our children behaving this way. And we're not always the cause, or you're not always the cause, right? Just for a last question for you. What is one thing you wish your friends and family understood about your daily life that they may not see?
You have me thinking. Repeat the question again.
So what is one thing you wish your friends or families understood about your daily life that they may not see?
So you know what?
Obviously, in terms of working, dealing with living with your ADHD, or yes.
I'm always thinking ahead. Like I'm always thinking ahead. What we're gonna do this week? What are we gonna do this day? Does he have money? Does he have his clothes packed? Like I'm always thinking ahead and worrying about him, right? Which I'm starting to let go of. But even up until next week, because I know that I have to set up the situation so that he doesn't get in trouble, or he doesn't forget things, because it's gonna fall back on me. For a long time, for instance, I would always bring his running shoes to school, or he forgot something because it's 5 minutes away. But
that's the ADHD brain. Organizational skills are lacking because of the executive functioning of the brain. Yeah, memory.
So I'm always thinking of ahead, like, okay, medication, put it on the island. Clothes, what's he doing tomorrow? Remind him of this, remind him of that.
Yeah.
Always, and that's why my brain's always going in circles. But even up until this day, I ask him, what do you want for snack? Things like that, because he'll forget. He's playing basketball. He has to know he has to eat properly, all this stuff. So I'm just always thinking, my mind's always going, and unfortunately, it still thinks about him.
So you wish they knew that on the outside, it looks smooth, but you wish they knew that you're putting a lot of effort into making your day and your life almost seamless, because
up until this day, and he's still 16.
Yeah.
I think I always compare it to my childhood. When I was 16 years old, my mom never got me up. She didn't do I don't do his laundry, but she didn't remind me to do my laundry.
Yeah.
I had to find food. Like there's food, and I had to make my lunch.
Yeah.
She didn't even make my orthodontist appointments.
Really?
No. I made them, and I went. She didn't even know when they were.
Yeah.
So, and that could be because I was in a different situation, but I have to stop and thinking for him and letting go.
Yeah.
But knowing he has this ADHD and the executive function is not top notch as yet. That's in the back of my head. That's why I'm always doing these things for him.
So do you think, Deborah, that maybe, I'm not sure if you're already doing it, but I know that it helps with ADHD kids or ADHD people with ADHD to write a list and have a checklist of, and even remembering to go to that checklist, but a routine of having a list of things that need to be done, and maybe an alarm that goes off that triggers the memory to say, okay, yes, I got to go check my list to see, make sure I took my meds, I did my homework, or I packed my homework, I packed my snack, just to alleviate some of that responsibility from you, to relinquish that from you, and then place it on him where he's more responsible.
Well, a piece of,
not a paper, for example, like maybe a graphic organizer. Maybe it's in his phone, right? And it alarms.
In his phone, yeah.
Yeah.
So we tried that. Like a paper would not work, but I've tried, but how much can I do? Right
Yeah.
in his phone. I'll send him texts.
Yeah.
We have a family group. We'll send him texts there. I'll
Yeah.
send him reminders.
Yeah.
But as for his day to day, we're trying to get him to put those things in his calendar
Yes.
because, excuse me, where maybe he might go away for school.
Yeah.
He has to get organized. But
Yes.
those things for him, I think at school in the last 2 or 3 years, they've tried to get him organized with the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. When exam times come around, on his wall, we do have big calendars. We put the exams, we put his basketball schedule. So that
Yeah.
helps with that piece. But the day to day reminder things, I haven't thought about that
Figure
yet.
that one out. Mm-hmm.
But you know, we do have big calendars in his wall.
Okay. Okay. I'm just thinking, even for me to support other families, like just because I want to use the strategies, some strategies, a lot of strategies that you're doing are great. And you need to give yourself a pat on the back. Like you're doing an amazing job from a very long time, for a very long time, from birth to now. You've done a really excellent job raising him and preparing him for life, right? And ADHD is not an easy diagnosis to handle. Some parents themselves, if they're not organized, then they wouldn't be able to manage an ADHD child, right?
Yeah.
Their stress levels, if their stress levels are too high, then they wouldn't be able to manage an ADHD child in a
Or
more,
a child with ADHD is not only going to increase your stress, but make you very anxious as well.
yeah, yeah. So again, um, when I repost, I'm not really good at reposting, but I need to start reposting my videos and then offer some of the resources that are available for these diagnoses, right? So I know that we both have long days, and just going to be cognizant of that. And thank the viewers again for tuning in. And I want to thank you so much, Deborah, for making the time for being here. Is there anything else that you want to share before we end the show?
You know, I want to thank you for having this platform. And I just want everybody to know that, you know, everybody's child is different and everybody makes their own individual decision for their child and their family. Um, but what I can say is, you know, you have to try. Try every avenue, every corner, um, and also, if possible, do your own research.
Mm-hmm.
There's a numerous resources that I found and that have helped in our journey. Um, with navigating resources and tools to help strategize. There's even conferences you could go to, but that's not necessarily doable for most people. But I would say be open to the experiences and to referrals, and share your experiences most most importantly. And I never thought I'd see the day that, you know, we're looking into universities now, you know.
Nice.
Um, so there is hope, and definitely we've come a long way, and we just got to keep going, is what I would say. Don't give up, keep going.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that advice to the parents that are watching and caregivers and grandparents that are there trying to support their grandkids as well. Thank you so much for sharing your information. This is all personal to you, and for you to share your professional judgment as well. Thank you so much for that. Um, So we're going to log off tonight. Right after this program is another great program. It's called This Week in Interview, and that is hosted by Anthony Drago, and it's coming on right after on TDN Network. So don't log off. When I sign off, stay on so you can watch his show. All right. Tune in next week for real talk, real strategies, and real situations on Minds in Motion. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.